Welcome to today's video. We'll be looking at the early life and the current story of Modern Warfare's Nikolai, who is portrayed by Stefan Kapicki. Nikolai was a character that was first introduced in Call of Duty 4 and was a bigger part of the original series than he has been in the current rebooted Modern Warfare timeline. Nikolai is a part of Task Force 141 and is shown to have a trustworthy relationship with Captain Price and Kate Laswell. As you know, I'm working on these videos to expand our knowledge of the lore within Call of Duty, and I have covered the stories of Modern Warfare and Black Ops from 1961 to 1984, and we have looked at the individual careers and lives of Captain John Price, Sergeant McTavish, and Commander Graves, as well as many more. Thank you so much for joining me, and welcome to the early life and the story of Nikolai. Now, we usually begin with the birthplace of the character we are covering. However, Nikolai's information is highly classified and isn't really available. It is believed that he was born in Russia, and Nikolai is a codename that was given to him to protect his identity, and his real name has not been revealed. Early in Nikolai's life, he joined the Russian army in hopes of fighting for something bigger than himself. However, very early into his career, Nikolai was sent to guard the Soviet embassy in Copenhagen, Denmark, and during his service there, he expressed a major disappointment with Russian foreign policy. The United States and Britain heard of this and did intensive work in trying to recruit him for intel. However, it wasn't until Nikolai was transferred to the Russian embassy in London that MI6 would make contact with the young Nikolai. Sometime later, however, Russian ultranationalists would catch wind of Nikolai's contact with MI6, and soon after, Nikolai would be accused of being an informant. However, these claims were never proven, and Nikolai would leave the Russian army and pursue a career in fixing. Nikolai's time in the Russian army proved valuable, as he was able to make strong connections with many people around the world. Nikolai is fluent in many languages, and this is important in his line of work. Nikolai worked with the British Special Air Service on many occasions during his time as an informant with MI6. And here he would meet Captain John Price, with whom the Russian has grown a great relationship with. And Captain Price comes to Nikolai when he needs something done discreetly and, more importantly, dirty. Nikolai would continue to expand his connections across the world, and his reputation would continue to grow. Currently, the whereabouts of Nikolai are unknown. However, it seems that he will be joining Captain Price in the hunt for ultranationalist and Russian Vladimir Makarov, who Nikolai has a great disdain for. Nikolai has assisted Price on many occasions, and he would join Task Force 141 in 2019. That same year, Nikolai would provide Captain Price and Sergeant Gass with weapons for an unsanctioned mission to capture Jamal the Butcher Rahar. Nikolai would help in stopping the Butcher from escaping, and later Price asked Nikolai to kidnap Jamal's wife and son for interrogation purposes.
Please let us go! We know nothing!
For negotiation. Perhaps the Butcher will have a change of heart.
After this, Jamal would reveal the intel that Price and Laswell were after, and Nikolai would support the ULF and Captain Price in destroying the chemical lab factory that belonged to Roman Barkov, who was a Russian general ultranationalist, who Nikolai despised. After the death of Barkov, Nikolai would assist Price and Farah Karim in stopping Viktor Zakayev in Verdansk, Kastovia. After working together, Nikolai would get more acquainted with Farah and the ULF and began to support them as well when he was called upon. And 2 years later, in 2022, Nikolai's service would be requested by Captain Price once again, as CIA handler and friend of Nikolai, Kate Laswell, had been taken hostage by Al-Qatala, and Nikolai would provide air support in the rescue of Kate. And a year later, in 2023, after Vladimir Makarov's escape, the CIA and Kate were scrambling for intel on Makarov and his associates. Laswell believed that her informant Yuri would be able to provide the answers that she was looking for. However, he was located in a Russian military base named Arklov that was heavily guarded, and Nikolai once again was asked to assist.
Makarov?
Word travels fast.
Only if he wants it to.
You think he's working for the Kremlin?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I have a contact who might know the answer. I need transport.
Where?
Arklov military base.
It's heavily guarded.
Can you do it?
To stop Makarov? Of course.
I need to get in and back out. Could go upside down quickly.
I specialize in upside down buzzwords.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Who's your contact?
Yuri Volkov.
Yuri's on the payroll?
Yuri never took a dime.
That's Yuri. When do we leave?
How's now?
After Nikolai dropped off Laswell, he moved to a safe location and waited for her call. However, he noticed moments later that missiles began to hit the military base and caused a deadly gas to spread. Laswell called to Nikolai and he rushed to save Kate. Later that day, Nikolai would join a meeting with the rest of Task Force 141 and talk about their next moves to take down Makarov. And after new intel dropped on Makarov and the Kani group via Milena Romanova, Makarov's financier, Nikolai would help in the extraction of Andrei Nolan out of St. Petersburg, who is Makarov's right-hand man. And after intercepting the communication between Nolan and Makarov, the team found out that someone was being extracted to a prison located in Siberia, and Nikolai provided Task Force 141 with transportation and exfil. Sometime later, an attack on Makarov's gas lab would take place, and Makarov would be presumed KIA. And after Task Force 141 regrouped, Price planned to head back home with his squad and told Nikolai to drop off Farah back in Urzikstan. And a few days later, Nikolai would get a phone call from Captain Price, who informed him that Makarov wasn't killed after all, and that Soap was murdered by him. Nikolai is now on high alert and will be available to continue the fight against the ultranationalists as soon as he is called upon. Now, Nikolai is a character that I hope is able to be on the ground some more in the next game, and we get to see him a little bit more rather than just for exfil and dropping off of characters. There wasn't much to tell on this current version of the character, but eventually we'll be covering his original version as well. However, as of now, we can be sure of seeing Nikolai in the next installment of Modern Warfare. This has been the early life and career of Nikolai.